I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Welcome to Geek Philosophy, where we love geeky wisdom. You have reached the Ventas Relics of the Ancients live stream wrap up, the campaign retrospective. So, thanks for joining us. I did not put labels on. It's my fault. But if you're watching the wrap up, you probably know who everybody is. So, why don't we just introduce ourselves this time? I'll start with my name's Brian. I'm the DM. And you probably saw me if you were watching the campaign, leading this troop of heroes. And next to me is.
Am I next to you?
You're next to me. Yep.
I am Carrie. I was playing Henrik Holliston, the wizard of the Athenaeum.
Very good. And next to Carrie.
I'm Crystal. I was playing Riva, a druid of Circle of Stars.
Nice. And then, of course, last but not least.
Melanie. I played Alora, and I was a Ranger Gloomstalker.
Nice. All right, so, well, here we are. We made it.
I can't believe it's over.
I know.
We're still alive.
Yes.
Yes, still alive. So, part of this for everybody, I don't know if you've seen many campaign retrospectives. It's something that I think DMs kind of talk about in passing and sort of do with their players from time to time, but I wanted to kind of standardize it a little bit. Not standardize it, but codify it a little bit by like having a session where we had some things that we were going to think about before coming in. So I sent some questions ahead of time to help everybody get the brain going. But, anything else you guys think of, feel free to fire away. So let's jump into the first one just to get things rolling. So really, overall impressions of the campaign. What are your thoughts? Don't all jump at once.
I was going to say, are we going to go in order or just whoever?
Whoever wants to go.
Free for all.
I guess we could roll for it, but no. Just go however you want.
I can talk forever. So.
No, that's what I was going to say. We're all going to start into the one thumbnail.
All right,
Henrik, you're up. Yeah.
Carrie, you kick us off.
Yeah, sure. Overall impressions, starting from the title. The title's awesome, so I'm really interested in world building, as you know. So I thought like all the aspects of the Donner Empire, even talking, I could have even nerded out and talked about like actual specifics with architecture and stuff. I thought it was cool that we did a little bit of that. Characters are all cool. I'll get to who my favorite NPC was later, but overall it's pretty cool. I think it's set up to be, the world is set up with like the teleportation, the starlight roadway. It's cool. It's a cool way to be able to jump back and forth between a bunch of different places on the world without having to worry about logistics and all that. Sometimes campaigns can get bogged down into too much geography. But I thought it was pretty cool. Just enough kind of Indiana Jones archaeology, enough action, enough classic combat, enough little background stories. But that's something we could probably progress later on, but it didn't dominate the campaign too much. So overall, those were my impressions.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Definitely team effort on all that, right? Like, and to be fair, like some of the things that you were just saying, like, and I guess there's probably not anything. I'm trying to think back. There's probably not anything in the behind the screens that will ruin anything for your characters if you were to watch the first set, like up till now. But even that, like, as I was kind of explaining some of those things, there were things that I had planned, and there were other things that completely were developed by you. So I'm a big believer in the players helping build the world, not just me saying, oh, here's the world, go for it. I really like for you guys to help build it. So some of the ideas that I got were things that you had maybe thought was going on. And I was like, oh yeah, that's what's going on. Let's do that. And so it kind of helps build the world as we were going. So that's awesome that you picked up on some of those things. Especially, I knew the architecture stuff would have been, and the travel was a big issue. Like, unless you have a way to explain it, it can be sort of one of those things that kind of like sticks in your brain. Like if you don't have a reason that they're able to do that, then it kind of ruins the story a little bit. It's like, well, how are they going to get across the continent without doing whatever? So it's good that you found that worked for you. So what do you think, Crystal?
I think that the campaign was awesome. I mean, I live with you, so I see all of the time and effort and every hour that you put into it. I mean, I'm not in your office because that's forbidden. I can't be spoiled.
Yeah.
But I know how much effort. Sorry, Romeo and cat butts. So I think that overall, for putting a limited, like a number on a campaign of sessions, I think that we accomplished a lot. I feel like we had a total arc, and then finding the things that we needed to find, and then getting back where we needed to get, stopping the bad guys.
And
I
like
think
in the
all
time
of
frames
the-
that we all worked with, like the just
Right.
2 hours for once a week. Yeah.
Right.
It really
I think
did.
all of the visuals, all the art, all that was
Yeah.
amazing. All the time you spent like pulling all of the videos together for the dreams that Reva had, and things like that. Overall, my impressions of the campaign are very, very good.
Awesome.
So,
Thank you. I'm really interested, probably more than anybody, to hear what you have to say, Melanie, because this was your first campaign. This was that
Right?
first character. You made it to the end of this
Yeah.
campaign. Doesn't mean, by the way, those of you that are watching, it doesn't mean that this is the end of the story for these characters. It was just the first kind of arc for these characters, like
It's
in
our
the
first
story.
chapter.
So, yeah, first
Yeah,
chapter
there you
of the
go.
book,
Yeah.
so to speak.
Exactly.
But what do you think, Melanie? Are you a converted
I
D&D
thought it
player now?
was- Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm ready. Anytime y'all get ready, I'm ready. But yeah, I thought it was fun. It was interesting. It made me want to keep like thinking about like what's going to happen next. And I loved all the details that you put into everything, the letters, the just all the, like she was saying, the dreams and everything, that we could actually have visuals to look at, because that really helped, like with everything. Like you could just look at it and go, oh, that's just cool, like we're there.
Yeah.
And that was amazing. I love that. And I love that you have like just a whole book basically written about this place that we're in, that you can just kind of get lost in each part. And I just
Yeah.
love that. It was really cool.
Yeah.
Well, that makes me very happy. And I
Yeah,
guess
it was awesome.
it's I think I built out the campaign world because it's different when you're running like an off-the-shelf campaign world stuff. Like if you're playing in the Forgotten Realms or something that's already established. For me, and other, I don't know, Carrie, I don't know what you think because you've run games before too. Like sometimes for me, it's harder to run on somebody else's world because I have to remember all of the things about that world if they pop up. But like, I think the pandemic actually helped because I had time to do things that I probably wouldn't have had before. So I really fleshed out the world while I was doing that, just because when you have spare time. But no, I'm glad. And some of it, like I'll give you a big thing that was like I had a paragraph, just a paragraph, like basically saying, in total, it was basically saying the Donran Empire was an ancient empire. They got too big for their britches, so to speak, and then the empire fell apart. I had that before we started the campaign. And then as we were developing character stuff, like I was like, oh, I can maybe do this, and then like it sort of grew. I mean, I had an idea of what I wanted the plot lines to be, but I didn't know what they were going to be. So you guys really helped me develop it, because every time I would prep for a game, I would have to think about, okay, if I build a dungeon or build a ruin, why is it here? And that helped me ask questions and kind of write more about the Donran Empire, because I had to kind of ask a little bit more about that. So I started with one little thing and then went from there, but that was really because of you guys. So I'm happy that it worked well.
That's cool, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it worked really well.
Yeah, it was it was good.
And
Yeah,
it is
definitely
different.
flowed.
Playing online is different.
Yeah, it
not
definitely
being able
is.
to
Yeah.
hand somebody a piece of paper. I have to like figure out how am I going to give this letter to someone. You know, like it's a different thing.
And
so.
it definitely does seem like it's more fun in person.
Yeah.
But I'm glad we have this option that you can still be able to play.
Yep.
That's pretty good.
I agree. All right. Anything else before we move on to the next let's just jump into the next one. If we need to come back, we'll come back to anything overall. So what were some, like, so enough, you know, about the campaign world and stuff, but like, what were your favorite things? What happened, and what were some of the favorite things that did happen? And we can go in order again, or we can just kind of like speak up if you have one that pops in your brain.
I mean, I really like. Okay, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead, Kendrick.
Go over. So for me, like I was playing a character a little bit different than my normal characters. I normally play kind of a rangery, kind of stealthy type. So it was. I know we joked about it during game, but it was kind of interesting and fun. Like when I started getting obsessed with the orbs. It was kind of a fun little thing. Even though we joked about it more than it actually came into gameplay, but my character overall would be naturally interested in that stuff. Naturally interested in just kind of being a little bit oblivious to whatever dangers might be out there. But it was a balance that I wanted to make. I didn't want to derail the game either, you know, as far as just breaking, like to play the character to just kind of intentionally tries to ruin the game for everybody, right? So I was trying to play with concentrating the character. But that was interesting. So that was kind of interesting. That actually the most interesting event for me probably was when Gentry fired on us, and we were kind of walking through that kind of what was it? Kind of ruiny section right before the tomb or whatever. So,
yeah,
it was kind of interesting because that's when everything kind of converged for my character as far as the different things that I've been thinking about internally, and then also how it was manifesting itself in gameplay. So
that's awesome. Melanie, you had something that you were going to say. Why don't we...
Oh, it's okay. We can go in order. I remember.
Okay. All right. You got Crystal then. All right. We'll go in order.
Yeah. It's not
okay. So I will have to say, Carrie, that you playing how you were playing Henrik with the whole, you know, you touched the orb, and then every time you talked, it was like about the orb. It was maddening while it was happening because I'm like, oh my god, no, because I'm like very much I don't
internalize your character a lot.
Right, and yes, for me, I get worried about doing anything that's going to like be harmful. You know, I tend to gravitate towards playing chaotic characters but good characters, and so the like whole thought of somebody becoming obsessed with the orb and somebody like, oh, I'm just gonna touch it, while in game, in the moment, I was like, oh my god, no! But it really was some of the most provoking parts of the game. You know, like thinking about it, talking about it, like, oh my god, what was he doing last night? What was he doing? You know, and then I'm like, but that wasn't Carrie, that was Henrik, you know? So I would label that some of my...
And I'm over here trying to figure out if that was Henrik or really Carrie, and I'm like, what the heck?
Yeah, but it was part of, you know, like it gave layers to the story. So it's part of my favorite stuff, even though in the moment it's killing me and I want to murder Henrik, but you know, like it's fun, you know, it gives fun to the game. Like, oh god, he's a loose cannon, he really can do anything, you know, like so that was probably one of my favorite.
Yeah, you played your character well, Carrie.
Yeah. One of my favorite things with Henrik, and then some of my favorite stuff too was just kind of finding out some of the backstory with Alora, and you know, like the whole mystery of her family, and her finding her Talem, like that thing was awesome. And then for me specifically, I really liked the whole the fortune teller lady.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that was so much fun for me. Like I have notes and notes of, you know, about her when she was talking to me. I'm like, you know, it's so much fun. And then
that took a while for me to
hours.
put together, by the way. Not the scene, but like I had to do some reading on how people people interpret tarot cards.
Yeah.
Like, because it was all improvised. So like I had to, like, I didn't have anything written for like what those things meant. So I had to like figure it out.
Wow.
So I had to do some research ahead of time because like this is the part, and again, this is I did a whole video on this, but like the DMs are players too. Like I could have written something down for all those, but it would have taken a lot of work, and also it's just fun for me to try to like make something up. So that's what I did. But I knew enough about the backstories to kind of help it go along. But yeah.
So that, and then also just kind of trying like seeing Riva kind of progress. The dreams that she was having, and getting her powers, and just being excited about that. And then, but then also figuring out like she's gonna just kill people real fast if they threaten her.
Yeah.
Like in the very beginning when the guy was like, "Give me your money, or I'm gonna kill you." She's just like, "You die." I don't care.
Oh yeah, that was pre-stream, right? That was before we went on the stream. Yeah.
So, but that's kind of, and then also probably some of the videos that we had, like the descriptions of the videos, and then like the music, and then you just kind of like how it all kind of went. It kind of all played into the overall ambiance, really. So.
Awesome. All right, finally, Melanie. I know you've been.
No worries. Okay, so I really like the meadow scene, like with the little things.
Oh yeah, pre-stream.
All the details and all that kind of stuff, and I loved getting the letters and having this story that I'm still wanting to kind of unfold, to try and find out a little more. Still want to know if my parents are alive somewhere or if they're dead. And I really liked getting the Talem, of course, because it is pretty bad. And I really liked the casino. The casino was pretty neat to be able to do and go around and watch, like with so much detail that you put into it, like you were saying, like with the tarot and the way she was picking stuff, and just the way all that went was really, really fun. And of course, I had just got back from Vegas, so it just worked out perfectly. Just continued my trip.
Brian.
Right.
Better?
Yes.
All right, sorry, but I have to say that knowing that you were going to head to Vegas gave me a little bit of an inspiration. However,
awesome.
I didn't know that you were going to end up there, like, because you legitimately rolled for the location. You could have ended up in a bunch of other places that you didn't go, depending on how that roll would have been. Like, where you would have been sent would have been completely different. So that would have been a different campaign based on where that happened.
Cool.
And then the other thing, I took probably not something that you would think of as a risk, but for me, it's a major risk to tie up a large portion of the campaign with somebody's backstory. Not because it takes time, but like there's some players that don't want that defined by somebody else. You know what I mean? Like you don't want to like have somebody tell you this is what happened. But like when we were rolling up and doing character prologue stuff, and it was like, well, I'm an orphan. I was like, okay, now that could gone like
so many
way
ways.
That's and sometimes that trope gets like run into the ground where it's like I was an orphan and it made me into this badass, like it can turn into something that it's always I was like, well, how am I going to make this work with the archaeology? And it's like, so it took a while to make that happen, but I was just happy that as we were going that you were into it, like because I was worried that I was pushing something on you, but like it turned out pretty well. So.
It was great.
Awesome.
Absolutely. I liked it. Like I said, I'm still wanting to know the rest of it. Okay.
So totally, I need to mention this too. I have to say, this is kind of going back to the overall campaign. It was really surprising to me how this turned out. Like, I did not plan the order of things to go down the way it went down. And if it would have happened in a different order, I don't know if your uncle would have revealed things the way he did. Like, if you had gone... Because you had the letter before the stream started.
Right.
But you chose to go on the mission instead of going to see him before you left. So, if you think about it, if you had gone to see him first, before you saw the ruins, saw your name carved, saw had the Talem, all that stuff had happened,
Yeah.
it would have been different, right? So
Absolutely.
again, guys, this is for all the DMs watching too. Like, let your players make the decisions they're going to make. Don't assume that just because you hand somebody a letter with an invitation
Yeah.
to come see them, that they're going to do it then. Because
Yeah.
because doing it at the end in a weird way actually helped you learn more. Because you picked up more, and it just worked out that it was building the mystery.
Yeah.
Like, in a way that I didn't
good.
really know that it was going to be built. So anyway, so
That's
it turned
cool.
out to be a good move. So
Awesome.
yeah, I mean, hey, who knows? That's why it's
Yeah.
one of the things that's great about D&D. It'll never be played that way again. Like,
Right.
that was just
Absolutely.
the story, the way
Yeah,
the
'cause
story
everybody's
is. So,
different.
yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
All right, let's go. All right. What were some of the favorite? I think we've touched on this a little bit. Some of the things that your teammates did that you thought were cool, or maybe they weren't cool, but they were favorite things that happened. We'll start with Carrie again.
Cat.
Well, I liked when you guys healed me. Like, that was a big part.
Yeah, that was a favorite
Yeah.
for all of us, I think. That was,
That part where I didn't die, and that was.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The part where I live to touch another orb another day.
Yeah. Yeah, no, this is maybe not a favorite thing, but I thought it was interesting, and it's kind of important part of the game, right? That what's cool about it is sometimes when you play D&D for so long, you kind of know all the spells for everything, like top to bottom, right? But in this instance, for the whatever spells that I chose, I didn't have a lot of experience with them. So I thought it was interesting to know how like our abilities interact with each other, positively and negatively, right? So like I had this Shadow Blade spell that would get negated every time Crystal would do her starry form. So
Whoops.
those are kind of things, and kind of you can't metagame it. You know, if you don't know those things as a person, it's kind of nice to for that to unfold in the game, so you can have real experience that both you and your character get at the same time, right? So those are kind of the coolest moments to me, to kind of the different maneuvers in combat and how that worked out.
Yeah, it's a good point when you've got someone that literally radiates light, and you need dim light or
Dark.
darkness. This is
Yeah.
like-
Almost every time I look at that spell, I was like, so okay, how far away is Riva from me?
Oh, yeah.
oh, it's so funny.
And then I have a Gloomstalker too. That
Exactly,
also
like,
Also
yeah,
needs
right.
darkness.
We're
Yeah.
trying to be in the shadows, and she's just all bright light.
Yeah, but then
Yeah.
the counter to that is a lot of the things that you guys were up against were
Yeah.
vulnerable to
Needed
radiant.
bright light.
So it was like,
Yeah.
oh, well, if we don't use that stuff, like, we can't do as much damage on those turns. So it's
Right.
like, it was like whatever
It
you
worked
did, it
out.
was going to be a weird thing, you know?
Yeah.
It kind of made me feel a little bit like when I first played, like when
Okay.
me and Brian first played, 20 years ago. I got this golden
Dude,
bow.
man, you're
Had
almost
no
at
string.
30 years now.
Yeah, it's probably 30. Yeah. So I got this golden bow. It was just a golden bow, and I was like, well, I want to try to string it. I want to try to put a string on it. And Brian's like, well, there's no notch or anything. There's no way for you can string it. So it turned out it was a magical bow, right, that shot magic missiles. But I was new to D&D. I didn't even know that stuff existed, you know. So as a player and as a character, you know, it was really cool to have that kind of innocence that, like, I was going to sell the thing for gold. I'm like, dude, this is going to be a lot of money. You know, it's a whole piece of gold. Not even thinking that there was even an option to have magic in it, you know.
Yep.
So it kind of took me back to that a little bit. Not so much, but enough a little bit, you know, where I was kind of working out logistics. I was kind of learning my character as I went, so.
Yeah, good point. And it's also it's kind of hard sometimes to have so many additions in your brain. Like, trying to figure out, like, how does this work in this game, this edition now? You know, like,
Yeah.
because even
Yeah.
the spells kind of change with the same name. They're a little bit different the way they work, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I probably played third edition more than any other edition, maybe
Yeah.
second edition too. But
Yeah, started
But
with
I'm
second.
still-
Yeah.
like advanced second edition, like
Yep. With Thaco
Yeah.
or Thaco,
Yeah.
depending on.
yeah. For some of the spell stuff, I am still in that mindset. You know,
Yeah.
in combat maneuvers and stuff, I have to educate myself on the 5e equivalent of that.
Crystal, what do you think? What were some of the favorite things from your team?
So just to speak to that for a second, though, that's why Brian was furiously in the background emailing us. You guys might want to get together and discuss your characters, like so that like how far away you need to be from each other. So I was telling Melanie, I'm like, okay, all right, you got to be over here. Like we can't be like all on top of each other because I guess I apparently negate everything. I didn't know when I was making my character.
But I know, but I didn't see it as a negative. That's kind of what differentiates D&D from kind of like World of Warcraft or another video game where everything's very mechanical. Is that kind of stuff is kind of cool. The bad is good. When your character kind of bumbling through things or makes a mistake, that kind of makes it kind of more interesting, really. So no, I don't regret it at all.
Cool. Yeah, as long because there's so many different. As long as everybody's having fun. Like I just didn't. Yeah. My only thing was I was just leaving the door open and it was like, if anybody feels like their abilities are being stepped on, I don't want it to be like, just not fun for you. But everybody worked out fine. But it was, just
right. But
I was just like leave the door open to, yeah.
It made me cognizant of the fact that I've got two people who are trying to use more shadowy or need the dark anyway. So I was trying to think of that anytime I was trying to move my character. Like because I'm the one character that is not really hurting, but, kind of negating some things. So, trying to figure out, okay, where do I go? That's why I was trying to like even fly up versus go around the stairs the one time to get to the chair dick when he went up. Because I was trying to make sure that I wasn't like cutting off anybody else's, like, the things that they could do. But, regardless of that, I have fun playing Reva, and I have fun with you guys' stuff too. I mean, and it's fun. I like strategically thinking, so that is fun to me to think. Okay, all right, well they've got that, and they've got this, and I've got this, so we got to do this, So, the whole metagaming thing that we're not supposed to be doing, but still, somebody else is I'm controlling this character, so,
Exactly.
You muted, Brian.
There's also a level of that I think is fine, like. There's like ultra metagaming where like you kind of go too far with things, right? But it's still a game, right? So there's some of that you still have to kind of understand the rules and like we're rolling dice to see if something happens, right? Like we're using math,
yeah.
So it's still a game, but the way you did it actually worked really well because as you were figuring stuff out, the characters were also learning how to work together. So like you can kind of in the story.
Yeah.
Figure it out. Like you didn't know each other really. Well, two of you did, but you didn't know each other's combat ability until you started adventuring together. And that kind of makes sense. The longer you play together, the more your characters are going to figure out what you can do too. So
right. Well, and technically, you don't get your powers. I didn't get my circle till 2nd level.
Yep.
So there's no interaction prior to that the characters had with the magic.
Yep.
If we're talking game story.
Yep.
I couldn't light up before 2nd level. So that's why I was trying to do that whole thing around the campfire where I'm like, oh, I can do this and I can do that, like, because it's like all of a sudden now she's got all these things that she could do. But for, I know I sidetracked us, ADHD brain, but as far as like, I'm going to get back on topic. As far as my teammates and favorite things. So one of my most favorite things was Henrik figuring out the puzzles. Because I was like, let's try this one in this hole and this one over here. And what does that do? And what do we do? What? Like, let's just keep pushing the buttons. And then I would have blown us up. So the fact that like, he was like, nope, we're going to do this. And we're going to do that. And it worked fairly quickly was great. Because I know me and I would have just been like, so put them all in at the same time, And then one of the other things for Alora was the moment when she used her Talem to shoot the orb out of Cherdic's hand. That was clutch. Like, what would have happened otherwise? We don't know.
Yeah.
Because that really, I think, kind of, he was getting away, or he was about to try to get away anyways. And I felt like, I started that fight with no spell slots. So it was like trying to scramble to figure out like what I could even do, improvising. So like I think that was a huge part, like a huge pivotal moment in the game. So.
Awesome. Melanie?
Okay, so with Henrik, I really liked when he was doing his little jumping and sliding across the floor thing with his little move he had. That was awesome. Loved it. And like with Reva, when she turned into her winged form, that was just amazing. But everything's been like fun and we just had a good time.
Yeah,
It's all
awesome.
been good.
I feel like everybody had a moments to shine in this thing. I will say that.
Oh yeah.
Carrie, when you were like, you offline, you kind of told me, you were like, I really think my character wants to touch one of the orbs. I'm like, all right, now I got a plan for what is the orb gonna do, and what's the effect that it can happen, and are the different orbs gonna react differently, and
Thank
all
goodness
those
you didn't
things.
kill him when he just touched it, because that could have went so bad.
It could have been bad. He rolled really well on some things. In fact, he rolled so well that he regained spell slots. So,
Yeah.
But that could have been completely the other way too. And,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I have to say, it legit rolls on my side the entire game, and legit rolls on your side. And when I was looking, like I had some tables that I was using for some of the random things, and I was like, this is incredible. And sometimes you guys were stuck when you're talking about not having any spell slots, or I think when you
Yeah.
first teleported to the casino, Melanie, I think Alora pretty much was
Yeah, I was
done.
done.
so
I think
like,
Henrik
your
was
hit points
too.
were really low.
Henrik
Yeah.
Henrik was too, because he was rushing out and we were all like,
Yep.
oh my god, he's gonna get killed because he doesn't have many either.
Yep.
Like, let's just go to bed.
So
And
yeah.
somehow I hardly got like hit at all. I don't know why.
Because you're the favorite. Shush.
It must be.
Whatever.
You're the honey bun.
Whatever. He killed my mentor within 5 minutes of the game starting, so
But he didn't kill
Jeez.
you. He had orders not to kill you. So.
Must be it. Must be it. Moving on to the next
That's
question.
totally
I did not give him orders not to kill me.
So,
Hey, if you didn't have
Carrie-
some perks, it wouldn't make it good.
Yeah. So, Carrie, who were some of your favorite NPCs?
So the most intriguing ones for me were Yasmin, Danny, Sherdick, and Ringing Bell. Just the dead the dead party that went to the tower before us.
The Alehounds?
Like, that's got like side story prequel written all over it. You know, like who these people were, who they were before they, had a whole life, and then they just ended up dead in our campaign. So it's
Yeah.
probably a tie between them and Gendry is pretty cool too. So is it Gendry or Gendry? I can't remember.
Gentry.
Gentry.
Gentry. That's
Who I have to say, not 100% based off of, but like there's a couple aspects of him that I based off of Omar from The Wire. So if anybody has watched The Wire and know who I'm talking about, you'll recognize the whistling. So most of the character is not based on him, but him being a badass and the whistle is definitely based on Omar from The Wire.
Gun over his shoulder.
Yep. Awesome. All right. Crystal, what about you?
So, Gentry was one of my favorites, especially after you told me that we've actually been watching through The Wire, and Omar is one of my favorite characters. So when you told me that he was kind of based off of him, I think it was before he was introduced in our watch process, and so whenever it came up, I was like,
yeah.
oh my god, I totally see it now. So he was one of my favorites as far as like bad guys go, and then Temper was one of my favorites. Which is he a NPC?
Yeah, I would say so.
Ish-ish,
I
so
would
he
say
was one
so.
of my favorites. I really liked Spiros, and then the Lady Fortune Teller, whose name I have in my notes somewhere, but I did not spend time going back to look it up.
I will tell you.
And then I also liked Alora's uncle. His whole character, I really liked his character.
That changed because you didn't like him at the beginning.
Reva didn't like him.
But I mean, even like it seems like Reva's attitude toward him changed pretty drastically.
Reva's attitude did change once she started seeing why he was acting how he was acting, but I always like the character himself. He was a really cool character.
Okay,
Crystal thinks he's a cool character.
got it. Madam Gale.
Yeah, Reva is so protective of Alora that, you know, she was just, you know, get away from her type, you know, just being more protective than
I was on
anything.
the edge, so she was on. You know, like.
Right. Well, he kept trying to
Yeah.
take your Talem. I was like, man, you better figure it out.
Exactly. Like, yeah. Be gone.
So speaking of that, who is your favorite, Melanie? Who were some of your favorite NPCs?
Temper was definitely
Yeah.
a favorite.
Fun.
And the little guy from the coat room at the casino, I could not think of his name either, but I really liked him.
Yeah, he was one of those Temper I had planned pretty well. He was an impromptu on the fly character.
But he was so cute.
But
I
I'm glad you liked him. My
Yeah,
favorite
he was cute.
is probably a forgotten character. My favorite NPC is Rial, who was at one of the tables in the casino. That
Yeah, it was the
Was that the
blue,
tiefling?
yeah, the water genasi.
the water genasi. Yeah, the blue,
that
the blue with the
just-
green hair.
Yeah. So she's probably my favorite. Just oh, wonderful! I'm so glad you are
She's like,
abandoned.
Yeah, like,
She-
yeah.
My notes
Maybe you
for
like
her.
that
So like,
table.
what I do for some NPCs I had planned just a little bit behind the screens for you guys, and I showed this during my behind the screen stuff, is I'll have a note that gives a description of the character, their personality, and then their voice. And the voice are usually just a string of words to help remind me. I mean, I'm no voice actor, but like remind me how to like play the character. And my voice notes were vaguely like Anna Delvey
Yes.
from
yes.
if you guys know Anna Delvey, the con woman that was played recently. There's a show about it right now, but if you watch it,
On
you'll
Netflix, yeah.
completely hear it when you see it. Anyway, let's move on. What about the game went well? I think we covered most of this, but overall, what went well for you guys?
Yeah, a lot of overlap with what we already said, like you said. But I think, yeah, just growing his characters overall, figuring out backgrounds, you know, kind of unraveling, not unraveling, but like building up organically, right? Rather than kind of being forced in front. It was just enough kind of backstory, kind of like Tolkien-esque, you know, when you kind of allude to something that happened in the past without describing it outright, you know, it kind of adds more atmosphere to the game. So that part of that progressed was cool. Actually, I think overall combat went pretty well. You know, we got pretty lucky combat-wise compared to how I normally roll. I think it went pretty well. Yeah. Overall, I think game structure, all that was well for me too. That was pretty good.
Awesome. Crystal?
I feel like as far as like the fighting went, you know, the pacing was good with that for the most part, and then the progression, you know, I know it was all our choices on where we went and it was random, but I felt like there was a clear story. You know, it wasn't like, okay, we're over here and okay, we're over here and what are we doing again? You know, I feel like it all really worked, especially if, you know, you were doing so much on the fly with certain things, especially given our roles and where we wanted to go and our decisions. I feel like everything kind of tied together really well. And then like what you said earlier with Alora, or, you know, Melanie choosing for Alora not to meet her uncle in the beginning and then to do it at the end, we all already had so much information. We all had all these questions about the Donran Empire, and we knew that she was from one of the families. We didn't know that in the beginning. So if we had gone there first, like you said, it would have been a completely different story. Then let's see. And then overall, the fact that, you know, Terrence kept telling us that there was no way we actually were beating Zarisha, and then we beat Zarisha. Yeah, that was pretty cool. So
Awesome.
we'd be like,
Emily?
there you go.
I think it went well that we all lived and we beat all the bad guys.
You know what? You can't ask for more than that.
Was the best part.
we all lived and we beat the bad guys. That's
mean,
really
hey,
well said. Yeah. Yeah.
Just covers it all.
Yeah. It's we're like, it's surprising sometimes to me, like even after doing this for 30 plus years now, like it still surprises me how invested and attached we can all be with these make believe characters, and like how we can feel it when like the pressure's on and you start going, oh man, like don't touch that orb, or don't go over, like what am I gonna do, I've got 0 hit points, I'm gonna die, like all those things like really start to, like, because you spend time investing with these characters, and then it still surprises me how much everybody, like regardless of how long you've played, it still kind of hits you in a little bit, like you still feel like, so I don't know, that's fun.
Well,
and I thought it went well in that respect
Yeah.
too. I feel like everybody was invested, so
Well, and I mean, we went a little easy on you too, because all of us left our pets at home. I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah.
have Cena, my eagle, and
But-
Melanie didn't have her pseudo dragon.
I kept worrying about
Exactly.
like Bryn. I was like, that's why I finally said, Carrie, you're just gonna have to tell me on your turn what you want your
Could you
familiar
imagine
to
if
do,
you'd had
because
2 others tagging along?
I was like, oh, yeah. All right. So, having said that, all right, what could we have done better? Like, what could have been improved about this next time? I have a list of things myself, but I'd rather let you guys talk through. So,
Well, first would be remembering Bryn more often, obviously. Can be improved. Let's see here. I got some notes. Well, I don't know. This is kind of wrapped up in the type of character we are too, but like maybe my character, I'm taking this from my character's perspective, is just like the speed with which we make decisions. Maybe we talked about, like in combat especially, maybe putting us on a clock, so it kind of simulates a real world environment, right? So we don't have too much time to overthink it. And probably that would cascade to kind of all things like interactions, like puzzles, that kind of stuff. I think all maybe could benefit from a little bit of like urgency, whether it's like dictated by you or just by ourselves overall.
And then it blows up.
yeah. No, it's a good thing that I think part of it is we were all learning to like how to make this work online. And I'll interject with one of mine, which is technical difficulties. That was probably my biggest thing. Like when I'm sitting at a table doing it in person, it's much easier to manage like handouts and minis on a table and things like that. I was kind of having to be, and I'm not complaining at all, I'm just saying things I have to improve. So at the same time I'm running the game as a DM, I'm also running it as a producer, like having to adjust sound, make sure things are, and so like some of the earlier games, they were kind of painful. Like for me, I was like, oh man, the volume was off on this or that, but like
But you handled it really well though. I mean, you got it fixed, and like a timely manner, and it all really, you really did well.
Well, I appreciate that. It's a learning. I think that's the thing, right? It's a learning experience for us. So, but I love the idea, Carrie, about the kind of increase in the tension a little bit, especially now that Melanie, you've got you know how the game works a little bit better. Like so, the pressure
hopefully
is
it'll be
more appropriate, right? Like because to put the clock on you early would have been, it's a lot.
Yeah,
of pressure,
I'd have been freaking out.
Yeah.
Wait.
But we can do it now. So,
definitely.
I'm ready.
Crystal, how about you?
Well, first I would get a door so that the cat couldn't walk on me the whole time. But like the room I'm in doesn't have a door, so can't really help it. Knocking over my stuff. We knocked over my camera one time. Knocked over my microphone. But I really feel like in some instances our timing on things. Carrie, you mentioned that too. It's like I think us being online with each other made that part a little harder because, Brian has pointed out to me, behind the scenes kind of, there's a little bit of a lag. There's a little bit like, it's not like right away, and then whenever somebody does start talking, sometimes it cuts out the other person. And so I think trying to find the groove with that. And then I talk a lot daily, all the time. I'm a hairdresser in real life. So I caught myself constantly trying to hold back especially when like a question was asked or something was going on, because I know like I can talk for days. So, but I don't want to be talking the whole time. So trying to like, but then not wanting there to be dead air, like I get like this anxiety about, oh God, like somebody's got to say something. Like, I guess I'll say something, So trying to pace that with me is kind of hard, especially if there's a little bit of a lag with like how people's facial cues are, if you can tell somebody's about to start talking or whatever, So I learned to start trying to watch y'all a little bit more to try to see if it looked like you were about to try to say something to get my anxiety under wraps, try not to like just open my mouth and let a bunch of stuff fall out. Yeah. So and then I think sometimes some too, and we've talked about this, like a little bit more like your planning type stuff, so that whenever we get into a game, we're ready to go types, like nothing that's like metagaming and spoiling the next session, but enough that like we can figure out like kind of where we're going and what our ideas are in certain things until we like, and getting in game, it might completely go out the window because who knows what's going to happen when you queue up and you get going. But, just having an idea of where we're headed or what we would like to accomplish is good. But otherwise, there's not a lot about the actual game aspect. And, I enjoyed myself thoroughly. So it's all new, so sure, there's things that we can improve on. I mean, I had to switch cameras at one point because my computer kept dropping the Wi-Fi and it was like lagging my voice all, way behind. And, our Wi-Fi downstairs is apparently really amazing. And then upstairs, my Mac, I guess its Wi-Fi antenna is not that great. So I had to switch over to my laptop to run the game. So, all the little things.
Have you tried a router?
We have one of those down. We did a booster up here, but it didn't help.
That's what, yeah. Oh, that sucks. Mm-hmm.
So
yep,
we did a bunch of stuff. It didn't help.
I figured.
And then my light went out like halfway through. So I'm like, here's a lamp and here's a lamp and here's a lamp. So just the logistics of things.
Yeah, but see, we never do that. Prepared. So, I mean, you did it great.
Yeah. And it's definitely a lot more doing it this way than it is at like a kitchen table, right? Like there's so much more involved in this. So, and it's even, and we're also streaming for other people to see too. So that's another layer. It would be different if we were just all on a Zoom call and it was just us seeing it, and we, wouldn't, but
it wouldn't matter as much.
Yeah. So for all of you guys out there that are thinking about streaming, these are good things to think about when you're getting ready to go. So,
good thing it was with friends.
Yeah. Okay. Melanie, what you think?
Honestly, I mean, I thought it went pretty well, except for maybe like when we were trying to decide stuff, we would have the long silences because we were all just kind of trying to think of what we were wanting to say, and then we'd all either talk at one time or, but other than that, I mean, I thought it went pretty well.
Yeah. Well,
but I mean, it was my first one, so I'm kind of, biased. It's been fun and whatever.
I thought you did great for your first campaign. I thought you jumped in and you handled it awesome. Like a lot of people,
thank you.
It's hard to tell how people are gonna like pick up the game, and I thought you did a great job. It's
thank you.
Yeah.
It's fun. I mean, that totally helps because it's fun. Like you totally get immersed in it, and it's fun.
Yep.
Well, and you were, I mean, you expressed a little bit of your concerns with me before we started about like trying to pull out the imagination, trying to think of things on the fly, and
I still have trouble with that. Like I'm a little bit slower thinking, so that I feel like I need to improve that definitely before our next games, because I do think a little slower and I'm a little bit
didn't come across that way. Like I don't think at least.
Yeah, so. That is something that is something that'll organically happen as you play. Like you'll start thinking, okay, all right, no, like it. I don't know how to explain it. Like you'll understand as you get further along playing. Like it just naturally starts flowing more once you kind of unblock it. So but you've done good.
Yeah, you did awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So what are we going to try next time? Any ideas of? Well, I guess we know, and I guess we can say for the next set of games, at least, Carrie's going to have to take a little bit of a break from the sessions, which completely understandable. We will miss him, but he's always got an open door policy to come back. Having said that, really, I guess, Melanie and Crystal, what do you think about what you want to do? Do you want to continue with the characters that you have and continue with these now 5th level? Everybody that didn't know, they leveled up to level 5. These 5th level characters in the next part of their story, or do you want to start a new campaign with a new set of characters? Either's going to be fine.
I think we're
Carrie,
ready.
we'll make sure that we'll write you in if we bring you back at a different level. So we'll do some one-on-one games or something to bring you back in at the right level. But what do you guys think?
Yeah, I think at level 5, I think we both agree we're ready to go with level 5 characters and keep going.
I had a feeling.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm definitely like excited to move forward with Riva as a character. But like logistically, we're talking about Carrie taking a break, and we do definitely need at least a 3rd, if not a 4th person. So, I'm open to, though, if we get 2 newer people, if we need to put Riva and Alora or Riva on hold, I'm okay with that, as long as we make sure we come back, because I really, really, really want to experience playing her at a higher level. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I just want to play, and I love creating characters. Like, I spend hours creating. I've got pages of notes. I have 4 pages on herbs and mushrooms and how to grow them organically. Like, listen, I go in on the research.
Yeah.
So
it's not like Carrie and I can relate to that at all about making characters. Like, we've probably made more characters than we've ever played. So
yeah. I've got several waiting in the wings, but then it's always so exciting to make a new one. I always end up being like, well, I just make another one. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to leave it up to you ladies about how you want to go. If you want to continue with these, even if we bring in new players, we'll bring them in at 5th level characters. We'll do some work ahead of time to make sure they're prepped and ready to go if we have to bring in new players for that. But, or if we need to, if we don't have anybody that works out that they can play and we need to run a campaign of 2 for a while, that's fine. Well, 3 including me, but that's fine too. So we can do however you want to do it. You don't have to answer now, but what I will say, what I do want to know is, Carrie, what do you think? Well, actually, here's a question for all 3 of you. What do you think your answer will be to Spiros? Whether or not you want to join the Athenaeum preservationists as part of the archaeological team that goes out and researches stuff. Do you think that that's something that you're interested? I mean, he's still going to be your friend. So, but do you think that it's something that you actually want to work for him, or are you thinking of branching out and doing other things? And this could be an individual decision.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, for my character, I think it's probably be a pretty easy yes, since that's kind of been my whole upbringing. Right? It's probably what I've been like hoping for, really, since I was younger. So it would be yes for me.
Crystal, what do you think?
Reva's just on the fence about that. Like, she likes the exploring. She likes going and, being with her friends. She likes doing all that stuff, but I don't think it's... I mean, if we're saving the world, yes. But if it's just a job, like, if there is a pressing moral dilemma that's affecting the world, that's affecting the, nature, that's affecting her family, then she's all on board. But if it's just to be on a payroll and just to go get sent without really, like, being, like, without any moral compass to it, kind of just, you go do this. I mean, I might still would help do a couple things, but I don't know if I would become, like, a full employee.
Okay. Melanie, what do you think?
So you're saying documenting Donran utensils doesn't interest you? Any sort of adventure like that?
I mean, it could be fun, but not like, I don't want to like make myself
forever.
I don't know. I don't want to make myself stuck. You
But
know,
digging-
like I want to be
but-
able to go and do things. Like if there's certain things with our storyline that we need to do, I want to do that. I don't want to feel like I have to ask an employer for time off.
But I think what Carrie's asking is, do you want to go to an archaeological dig and dust off some old cups and platters and forks and knives of the Donran Empire? Because that's a lot of what they're doing.
She
And they just
probably
sometimes they happen to run into some magic stuff.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go dust no plates.
So,
I've had my fair share of washing dishes in
Yeah.
my life, so
Melanie, what do you think?
it's got to be exciting.
I think since he was asking us for the 3 orbs, like if we wanted to work for them to get the other orbs, right? That was, I would-
Maybe.
or was it?
I think
Okay.
he's looking because he doesn't know where they are or where they're going to be. But like, if you come across them, that's going to be something there. I think he was more trying to offer you a job working for the Athenaeum. Like a lot of those, like there's a bunch of different groups that go out and they do archaeological digs and they try to find artifacts. You know, not just orbs, like just trying to find all kinds of things. And there's other, like the Juriosh people or another set of things that they would do. So it may not even be Donran stuff, right? Like it could be,
Yeah, could be anything.
yeah.
Well, the archaeologist part of me wants to say that would be amazing and I would like that. But on the other hand, we have 3 more orbs we really need to find. So I think we need to find the orbs and then maybe have that on the back burner if I, you know.
So then
like,
that's
yeah.
so that kind of works. Then that might be a good in-game reason for the splitting of the characters a little bit. Like maybe Henrik is kind of staying with the Athenaeum for a while you guys go off and do your own thing. Still on everybody's on good terms, but and then Carrie, if and when you have time to come back and rejoin, if we have a campaign later, then that'll explain some of the time in between, and we can work offline to figure out like what your character had been doing in between those things. Does that sound right to everybody?
Yeah.
I mean, my thing is I definitely want Spiros to know at any point if you need, like, he
Right.
knows we did a good job. I mean, we
Yeah.
brought back 5 orbs
Mhm.
in a
Yep.
fairly short span of time, you know? So I feel like he knows, I want him to understand he definitely can call us when he gets a line on any of that stuff that he needs help with.
I think what we can do is we can kind of leave it with the understanding that if he ever hears about orbs, like that they found anything, that he would bring everybody back in. So, yeah.
Or
Sounds
anything
good.
that's, or any part of that whole thing where the Shadowfell and, you know, the world's merging type thing, you know, like any of that stuff,
Yeah.
any of that doom and gloom stuff.
Yep.
With all that stuff, like if he finds out more stuff, I want, like, you know, Reva wants to help with that, because I
Yeah.
really don't want a cataclysmic thing happening without at least helping. But I don't want to just be a duster, you know, like
Yeah.
it'd almost be like I'd rather do contract work than
Yeah.
employee work.
And I'm on the fence because I'm the archaeologist. Like I said, the archaeologist part of me wants to do that kind of stuff, but then the ranger part of me is like, I don't want to be cooped up doing that kind of stuff. So I'm torn.
We'll see what options come up
Yeah.
in the near future. I'll see what we have we can put
Did we
together.
lose Carrie?
I think we lost Carrie, but we'll see if he jumps back on.
You left us already.
I know. Wow.
I know it's
You know, he's like, bye guys.
I know. Yeah. I don't like goodbyes. I'm out.
He said I'm exiting right now to go dust some plates.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Henrik's wanted poster is up on the thing now instead of like
Oh yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Wizard number
Useless
1.
man.
Oh gosh.
Oh man.
Well,
Well, that's good though. I think, I think it was a lot of fun. I really appreciate all of you for sticking with me and helping me with the game, because couldn't ask for better players jumping in to do this. This was, you were patient as we were trying to figure all this stuff out, and and working together as a team for the most part. I mean, except for when the characters were not because of other issues,
Yeah.
or at least they were working together, just maybe not on the same page all the time. Put it that way.
Right.
But yeah, I will say that the big thing that that probably the thing that let's see. I'll ask that question when Carrie gets back online. Let me ask the two of you. So, what are your thoughts about like frequency of play? Like once a week, okay, but could we maybe add like a game, or not a game, but like a planning session, like Crystal was talking about, sort of toward the beginning of the week, and then have our session at the end. This is the shortest amount of time, meaning the shortest session that I've ever run. For this type of campaign, 2 hours is fairly short, but I think it works as long as we kind of keep things in mind. And then next campaign, I don't want to put a limit on the number of games like we did last time. Like it helped for this session. I think, just for your own knowledge and for anybody watching, what really that was useful for was me making sure that I could pace things and we could try out how this whole streaming thing was going to work. And it's just a different world, like running all this stuff from a producing perspective to also running the game and stuff. So I think it was good to kind of just have a good solid 10 sessions. But now we can just kind of play it by ear to see how long it takes to finish an arc is going to be dependent on however long it takes to finish the story arc. And if we bring in Carrie earlier, we bring him earlier. If he's got more time, we'll make it work. So we'll figure out what we need to do. So yeah. But I did have I did want to ask before we close out, what are your thoughts around the reveal that the Donran Empire were changelings and that they're still around?
It was wild.
Yeah. So I think that
I wasn't ready.
I felt like Reva had enough clues. I had enough clues to understand that they were still there. However, the changeling, knowing that they were changelings was like completely, like I had no clue.
Yeah, like whoa.
I mean, and Brian can tell you, Melanie, I was in the background going, okay, so I know Cherdic's family are dwarves, and I know that Melanie's family are elves. Maybe each house is a different race, and they were like the start, so the start of the different races. And I was like, I'm going to ask Temper, like what the house that he served, like what their races were, and so it was interesting. Like that was one of the biggest things that was like, yeah. It wasn't,
because I was like you. I thought it was different
entered
races
my mind
as well, but then like changeling would come out of nowhere and was like, whoa, cool, okay.
But made so much sense.
Yeah,
they're all
especially
the same. They just change what they look like.
Yep, to fit in and blend.
Right.
Yeah,
and
that's
I'm
awesome.
like. Not Alora, but like Crystal, Reva, like I'm really interested to find out more about that. Like I have so many questions for Alora's uncle, which I'm not a family member, but I still want to ask so many questions.
Well, he said we can stay, so I'll just tell him, me and you's coming to stay.
Carrie's coming back in. Here we go. 1 second. Here we go.
Hello.
We got you.
Hello.
There we go. Sorry, guys.
Thought you went to dust some plates.
Yeah. So they were giving me their answer
went
to
to
this.
do it.
I wanted to get your take on this because I'm actually really curious on your take on this. What did you think about? I don't know. Maybe it wasn't a reveal to you. Maybe you pieced it together. But what did you think about the reveal that the Donran were changelings?
I mean, I can't say I knew. I mean, it was one of the options. We had tons of different options. I thought they were going to be like, first thought was they were like undead kind of lich type people who lived around forever. The changeling is kind of a cool idea too. So they actually are descended. Yeah. They live longer, but they're not like immortal. But
they live about the same amount of time as a human. Mm-hmm. So they literally train their offspring to take over that persona. and then it's like
So it's
next
the
person.
opposite of a vampire.
Yeah. So like like they have to. So like when did I don't want to prod this too much, but did learning that shed any light on anything else that had happened during the campaign, or things like either material things or people you had met? I know
Go
Crystal
girl, say it.
specifically asking
Crystal
Carrie.
had some ideas, but no, Carrie, you can answer too. But I just
No. Go ahead, Crystal.
well, that's why I'm not trying to spoon feed. I knew that Crystal and I had conversations. I just didn't want to I didn't want to have her go through it unless somebody else had an idea first. So Crystal, go ahead. You had some ideas. So what did you think?
So here's the deal. I think it drives Brian crazy, but I'm that person that watches TV or watches a show and I'm like, oh my God, this is about to happen. Okay, no, I promise. Like this, they would not be doing this right now if this was good. So the whole time this is going on, he is telling me nothing behind the scenes, but trying to pull things out of me. Like, what do you think's happening? What are your suspicions? What do you have?
Because
any
I know how her
clue?
brain
And I'm
works. So like,
Yeah.
she's my indicator if I'm telegraphing stuff too much. So I'm like, oh, so what do you think is going on? And
Right,
then
and
she
very
would tell me.
early on, I was like, I have no clue. Like, it's all a blank slate. But then as time went on, I was like, okay. So first and foremost, the journal entries that spanned hundreds of years and were written with the same handwriting, right? Hillborns, which were whatever family, the whoever they were. I have it written down somewhere, but so that was a big thing. That was like, okay, that made us think they lived longer because the handwriting matched. But now we know that they train their offsprings to take over roles and personas. So even so much so to mimic their handwriting, like down to like the minutia, like the tiniest little thing. So that was like a big thing. That was like really kind of crazy when it got revealed that they were changelings and they didn't have a different, like they're not the same person. Like that person writing those notes was not the same person. So, and then that Cherdic, it said Cherdic is not one of us. So Cherdic wasn't a changeling. That's what all of that meant. He was born and he was raised in a family that was, and he wasn't, just like your mom, Alora. And so I think that was the whole part of the whole reason why he joined the Shatterkai, or the group,
The Shadow Seekers.
Shadow Seekers. Yeah, he joined that whole group
Seeking
because
the ones
he'd
in
been
the shadows. Yeah.
right. He'd been outcast kind of his whole life. He wasn't in the crowd. He wasn't in the know, and he wasn't trained as an heir or as someone to carry on a specific role because he wasn't a changeling. But he sees it happening around him, so he knows something is different. Let me think. The whole thing,
and I totally missed all that. So that's awesome. You caught that. Like that's
Well, I was trying to like
girl.
for the
My
people
brain
that
is like.
yeah, that's awesome though.
Did the items make sense more after hearing it? Like you got I don't know if anybody, maybe I know Crystal picked up on it, but I didn't because we talk all the time, so I didn't want to did anybody else pick up on the items fitting well with that society now, knowing who they are? Like the cloak changes what it looks like to fit in with different society. The talum is something that can shift as needed between being a bolt or a bow or a sword.
Oh, yeah.
Your ion stone was loaded with 2 spells. Comprehend languages and dark vision.
Oh yeah.
Because if you're impersonating an elf, you have to be able to see in the dark.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, so like
That's cool.
Yeah, Crystal and I had talked about this stuff. Like, we went to dinner this weekend, and it was like, oh, now we can talk. And like, she was, so I was, but again, like, you have like, there's 2 things. Like, so like, I think that for those players that love that kind of stuff, as a DM, you want to put some of that stuff in there so they can peel back, some of that stuff. But for those players, like, there's nothing wrong with just playing and like just showing up and having fun and not thinking about it in between sessions either. That's an okay way to play too. Like,
And I think the
want...
only reason I wasn't catching that kind of stuff was because I was focusing on what I needed to do.
Yeah.
More than that, because I was new.
Yep.
So I was still trying to learn, but I'm thinking maybe the next one I'll be paying a little.
Well, I was going to say that too. The other reason that you don't pick up on that stuff is you don't know about it. Like, you're just brand new to it. So like,
yeah.
But I've had other people, like, or Carrie and I have played with people that, like, they show up and they're like, hey, do you have a character I can play with? And like, you know, you just give them one and they sit down at the table because they don't get a chance to play often. They don't keep up with the game, but they just love to play when they get a chance, you know? So there's no right way to play this game other than just respect everybody and have fun. But like, there's all kinds of different ways to play this game and to really think about it. But like, it was fun to like try to put in the few things. I was just impressed that Crystal uncovered pretty much all of them by the end. So, or at least saw them once things were revealed. But I will say, it was you, Melanie, that made that happen, because there would have been no reveal of the changelings had it not happened in the order that it did, because there's no way he was just going to say, hey, yeah, we're Empire of Changelings before you go out on the adventure.
Right.
Like, that's just not going to happen.
Cool.
Now, if you would have gone back to him, maybe that would have happened, but like, it was less likely. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So at least we got a little bit of answer.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And
well, you know, I feel enough that there's not this all-consuming, like, why did we stop here? You know, like, you know, it was a good stopping point for the first, you know, gaming session.
I said this in my last Behind the Screens. Sometimes, Carrie, I don't know if you've had this when you were running games either, but like, sometimes as a dungeon master, you play your cards close to the chest a little bit, and you don't want to reveal everything because you're wanting to have a big reveal at the end, but then or not reveal it all so that the next campaign can get all of it. And there's still some things that you still haven't figured out, but like, or haven't been revealed. But I was like, there's no way I was not going to tell you guys about that, because you'd put in all the time of playing the game. Like, your players kind of earn like learning about like what's going on. You can't keep the secret forever, or it's no fun, you know. Like, you have to let them explore it. And I felt like everybody did the things to make it work well, and like the questions that everybody was asking, or even like you know, figuring out the puzzles and understanding the glyphs meant the houses, and then like putting that together with the other things. I mean, you did little things over the course of the adventure to kind of like unravel it. So while Crystal, you're really good at doing all that stuff in hindsight, like you said, like, everybody had their part in that. Like, it was really everybody's game that made it turn out this way. So I think that's probably a good place to end it. And I just want to say thank you to my players. You guys are amazing. Great job. And
thank you. You were amazing as well. Thank y'all for letting me play.
Absolutely. Anytime.
Yeah. Thanks for playing with us.
Heck yeah. Anytime.
We will we'll see you in the next campaign.
Right. We're gonna miss you, Carrie Henrik.
Yes.
Cannon.
He'll be back.
I'm getting out level 5, so probably won't be gone long.
Nice.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Awesome.
Practicing fireball for myself.
All right.
You just go sneak into the room where they're keeping all of the orbs and disapparate somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Yes, we take it.
Bye.